How much do you need to spend on meta ads to get great results for your music? If you spend too much, you could go broke. If you spend too little, you could be missing out on really great results. In this video, I will explain how I spend my advertising dollars to run as many profitable campaigns as possible. My name is Alex, and this is Nani, and together we run a record label called Spiration Music, where we have done over 20 million streams on the back of meta ads. In terms of spending, we need to discuss two major decisions that you need to make for your campaigns. Number one is, how much do I spend on my initial campaign? Number two is, do I add more budget to my campaign? Let's start with question number one. When I run a campaign, I do it with the intention of getting boosted by Spotify's algorithm. They can be triggered with different stream counts, but in general, I shoot for 10,000 streams in a 28-day window. Andrew Southworth did a great video on this topic, but essentially that stream count is the most correlated number with a Discover Weekly boost on Spotify. I'll put a link in the description to that video. So I want a budget high enough to hit that number. Because about a third of the streams on my label's releases in the first couple of months comes from our playlists, we can pretty easily push past the 10,000 stream in a 28-day window mark with a $500 meta ad campaign. You can hit the 10K mark with much less, but those are generally outliers, and I don't like to rely on outliers for my strategy. You can adjust this amount for your needs. If you find you can consistently hit that mark with a $300 budget, then use that budget. This is just a general rule of thumb that you can use as a starting point. And while $500 isn't necessarily the minimum budget, it also isn't the maximum budget. My label releases 4 to 8 songs per month, and I need to be able to plan on running campaigns for all of those. Plus additional campaigns for songs that did do well in the past, and I'm running additional campaigns for now. More on that later. Once my label is able to sustain higher ad spends on initial campaigns, we will likely do so. The TLDR of all that is, I like to start with a $500 budget, but you can adjust it according to your needs. I run this initial budget over the course of 35 days. The first 7 days gives the ads time to learn, and then the next 28-day period, they're running at full steam, which again, maximizes the number of streams I'm getting in a 28-day period to get on Discover Weekly. Now we know what budget to start with, but how do we know when to add more? Side note, if you make EDM, my record label runs and fronts all of the money for these campaigns for you if we accept your demo. We do a 50-50 net revenue split, so if you don't make a profit on your song, neither do we. We support your song through meta ads, our playlists, and social media. Submit a demo to us using the link in the pinned comment. Back to the video. We know what meta ad budget to start with, but how do we know if we need to add more? Step one is actually super easy. You wait. I don't add any budget to my campaigns for at least 2 to 6 months after the initial campaign is over. During this 2 to 6 month period, I'm watching the song to see how well it streams. I only add additional budget to a song if I see that the streaming volume of that song is enough to make back about 10% of the initial investment every single month post-campaign. I call this the 10% rule. For example, if I spend $500 on a campaign, I want that song to be making back $50 per month, which is around 15,000 streams per month for me. And of course, the more the better. If the song is getting far more than that every month, I'll probably start the second campaign somewhere in the 2 to 3 month mark. If it's right on the edge, I'll wait longer, probably about 6 months. And of course, if you have a limited budget, like probably all of us do, then you want to prioritize the best performing songs. So if you have a handful that are above the 15,000 stream mark and some at the 15,000 stream mark, start with the better performers, get the second campaigns out of the way, and then just save the other songs for later when you do have the capital to push them again. Here's an example of a song that more budget was added to. In green, we can see that the meta ad campaign was live for about 35 days. When the campaign was over, the song started to drop in streams. During this drop, I do not start a new campaign. A month after the campaign was over, the song started to climb again thanks to a lot of Discover Weekly and radio boosts. The streaming after the campaign was over was a lot better than when the campaign was actually on. Because of this, and because the song was making back more than 10% of its initial lump sum investment every month, I decided more budget should be added, and I will show you the results of that in a bit. This is an example of a song that I decided not to add additional budget to. We can see that the campaign was on during this time period when the saves were at their peak. Typically, after a campaign is over, the saves drop. So this is how we know when the campaign was running. If I change this to streams, we can see that the streams also dropped along with it. So we didn't get those amazing Discover Weekly boosts or radio boosts like we did for the other song. The current 28-day streams are about 5,000. That's about $17 per month, and it's well under the 10% threshold. Because of that, this song did not get any additional budget. That answers whether I add additional budget to a song, but how do I decide how much to add? The biggest mistake I see a lot of artists make is they add just a little bit of additional budget to a song. If you add just a little bit of budget, you risk not moving the song high enough to sustain a higher level of streaming than before you added that additional budget. In which case, that budget was mostly a waste if the goal is to make your money back on streaming royalties and also to get your song heard by as many people as possible through streaming services. Additionally, if your budget is too high, you could risk hitting a wall of diminishing returns and not seeing that 10% figure stand after your next campaign. To avoid both of those issues, I double whatever I have previously spent on that campaign to run a new campaign also in a 35-day period. So if my initial campaign was $500 over 35 days, then my second campaign would be $1,000 also over 35 days. After campaign number 2 is over, the 10% rule still applies. If I am streaming at about 45,000 streams per month with that song, that means the song is making roughly $150 per month, which is 10% of the total $1,500 put into the song. At this point, I would consider running a third campaign for the song, which follows the same algorithm as before. I double everything that has been spent already, so that was $1,500, run a new campaign over 35 days. So that's an additional $3,000 campaign over 35 days. The total amount spent after the third campaign is over is $4,500, which means the song needs to be making about $450 per month in royalties for me to consider that campaign a success. Let's go back to the very first example I showed you. This song had great streaming numbers after the campaign was over, so an additional budget was added. If we look at the last 12 months for this song, we can see that the song has gotten a little under 900,000 streams in the past 12 months, and in total, the stream count is just under 1 million streams. We can see that in recent months, the song has been streaming a lot higher than usual. That is because this song has had both a second and a third campaign run for it. If I switch over to the saves, we can see when campaign number 2 was run. We can't see campaign number 1 because it was over a year ago and Spotify does not show us data for more than 1 year. We can see that the campaign ended when the saves dropped. But after the saves dropped, the streaming continued to do very well, and the song was hitting 45 to 50,000 streams per month. Because of that, I ran a third campaign for this song, the $3,000 campaign. We can see when that campaign was run because the saves were super high. While the campaign was on, the song got up to about 200,000 streams in a 28-day window. But if I look at the last 28-day streams, we can see that it currently is sitting at 163,000 streams. In order for the third campaign to be considered a success, the song has to stay at 135,000 streams per month or more. Right now, because the campaign recently ended, the streams are in its dropping phase. If the streams drop further than the 5,000 streams per day, it will likely be under 135,000 streams per month, in which case I would not run a fourth campaign for the song. We still have yet to see whether the song will continue to drop, if it will stay as is, or if it will start to grow again. The lifetime ROI I'm looking for is to break even at 8 to 12 months and to double my investment at 16 to 24 months. I don't have much data going past the 2-year mark, so I'm not really sure how a song fares 3 to 5 years down the line with this method. In addition to putting extra budget in high-performing campaigns, it is also very important to cut budget from very bad campaigns. If a campaign does not look like it's going to hit the 10,000 stream in a 28-day window mark with a $500 campaign, I'll probably just cut it at $100. Jesse Cannon makes really good points in his videos about the opportunity cost of running meta ads to promote your music. If campaigns are not making your money back in 8 to 12 months and then profiting from there, I think there probably are a lot better things you can do with that money than put additional budget into your campaigns. Things like creating really good content, getting better equipment, making a better song. If you're an EDM artist, spending the money to get a really good vocalist on your track, those things can have massive impacts for the reach of your music. I want everyone watching this to get tons of new listeners and to not go broke in the process.